Good day everyone. So today I will going to tackle about the story entitled Charlotte's Web by Elwyn Brooks White. So this is the background of Elwyn Brooks White. So he was born on July 11, 1899 in Mount Vernon, New York, US. He was an American writer. He was the author of several highly popular books for children, including Stuart Little in 1945, Charlotte's Web in 1952, and The Trumpet of the Swan in 1970. In a 2012 survey of school library journal readers, Charlotte's Web came in the first in their pool of the top 100 children's novels. In addition, he was a writer and contributing editor to the New York Magazine, and also a co-author of the English language style guide, The Elements of Style. So, Charlotte's Web, classic children's novel by E.B. White, published in 1952 with illustrations by Garth Williams. The widely read tale takes place on a farm and concerns a pig named Wilbur and his devoted friend Charlotte, the spider who manages to save his life by writing about him in her web. So these are the characters of the story. Wilbur, a pig that was the runt of the Arbol spring litter. Fern saves Wilbur from her father, Mr. Arbol, and Wilbur is sold to the Zuckermans after Fern raises him like a baby. Wilbur is kind but naive and responds to the world like a child. He idolizes Charlotte and tries to live up to her positive view of him. Charlotte, a spider that lives in the doorway of the barn of Zuckerman's farm. Charlotte is kind, knowledgeable, and wise. She befriends Wilbur and proves herself to be both a faithful friend and a patient teacher. She is clever and comes up with an idea to save Wilbur's life. Fern, an 8-year-old girl who saves Wilbur from being killed as a piglet. Fern is compassionate and kind and quickly bonds with Wilbur as she cares for him. She loves animals and spends much of her time in the Zuckerman's barn. She considers the barn animals as her best friends. Mr. Zuckerman or Uncle Homer. The man who buys Wilbur, Mr. Zuckerman, is Fern's uncle who agrees to buy Wilbur. He takes good care of his animals, giving Wilbur a safe place to live and good food. He plans to slaughter Wilbur for Christmas dinner before Charlotte's Web convinces him otherwise. Timpleton. A rat that lives in the Zuckerman barn, Timpleton is selfish and only does things to help others when he knows it will benefit him as well. He is known for being sneaky and is not trusted by the other animals in the barn. However, his cunning and tendency to collect things make him useful. Avery, Fern's brother. Avery has a lot of energy and is known to get into trouble. He often keeps animals and objects in his pockets. Lurvy, the hired hand on Mr. Zuckerman's farm. Lurvy discovers Charlotte webs and reports them to Mr. Zuckerman each time to seize a new one. Goose, a goose in Mr. Zuckerman's barn. She gives Wilbur misguided advice when helping him break out of his pig pen and refuses him request to play because she is focused on the task of sitting on her eggs. She feels bad that Wilbur does not know that he will be slaughtered by Mr. Zuckerman. Oldest sheep. A sheep in Mr. Zuckerman's barn. The oldest sheep is impatient with Wilbur when he is loud or rude but has compassion for him when he tells Wilbur that Mr. Zuckerman plans to kill him. He helps Wilbur in his quest to stay alive by persuading Templeton to help. So this is the plot summary of the story. 8-year-old Fern Arable is devastated when he hears that her father is going to kill runt of his pig's new litter, persuading him that the piglet has a right to life and promising to look after it. She saves the animal and names him Wilbur. When Wilbur becomes too large, Fern is forced to sell him and her uncle, Homer Zuckerman, whose barn is filled with animals who shun the new corner, comer rather. When Wilbur discovers that he will soon be slaughtered for Christmas dinner, He is horribly distraught. He sits in the corner of the barn crying, "I don't want to die, Charlotte." The hairy barn spider who lives in the rafters above his thigh decides to help him. With the assistance of sneaky rat named Templeton and some of the other animals in the barn, she writes a message in her web. Some pig. More strange messages appear in the web, sparking people from miles around to visit these divine manifestations in the pig that inspired them. Charlotte accompanies Wilbur to the county fair, where she spins her last note. Humble Wilbur wins a special prize, and his survival is ensured. It becomes apparent, however, that Charlotte is unwell. After laying hundreds of eggs, she is too weak to return to the Zuckerman's farm. A saddened Wilbur takes the egg sack, leaving the dying Charlotte behind. One home, Once home, he keeps a watchful eye on the eggs. Although most leave after hatching, three stay behind in the barn, and they and subsequent generations of Charlotte's offspring comfort Wilbur for many years to come. So this is the analysis of the story. The story deals with a theme of life and death in simple ways. The reader can understand why Wilbur is living at the farm, but they are rooting for him to be saved. When Wilbur befriends Charlotte, the spider, she does everything in her power to help Wilbur not meet this usual fate. The story deals with the theme of the life. Friendship is also a strong theme in the book. It shows how rules can change from caregivers to friends, and it shows that friends can come together and help you when you need them the most. Although the seasoned barn animals knew the fate of Wilbur, they still helped Charlotte and her plan to save him. Also, the animals in the book are all very loyal to each other. Charlotte helps Wilbur out and to return the favor. Wilbur tends to Charlotte's family long after her death. This is a wonderful way to show that loyalty can last for a long time. So these are the themes of the story. The difficulty of growing up. The story centers around a youngest protagonist, Wilbur, who naturally must go through the growing pains that come with being young and growing up. Wilbur is close to Fern, who is also young and growing up with him. Before Wilbur even learns about the weight of life or death, he has to navigate early life. Wilbur begins entirely dependent on Fern and then has to go through the hardship of separation from the person closest to him. This brings on boredom and weariness in life that he must learn to work through. As he works through his loneliness, he faces the sadness of rejection and friendships. Although these are not life and death struggles, they are important to Wilbur and deeply impact him. Young Fern chooses to be close friends with the animals, resulting in questioning and concern from her mother. She faces expectations of her mother to interact with peers in a certain way and fails at the beginning to live up to the reality of death. From the very first line, the threat of death is present in the story. The protagonist, Wilbur, is saved by the passionate pleas of Fern, who is disturbed by the prospect of an unjust death. She appeals to her father's compassion, who is torn by the effect allowing Fern to save Wilbur now might have on her later. Fern's mother and father are pragmatic and know the reality of animals being slaughtered for food, but they are also moved by similar compassion toward the young animal and a desire to shield Fern from the pain of death rather than expose her to it. As Wilbur grows and learns about his potential death, he is met with pity by the other animals in the barn as they recognize his sad fate. So, the importance of friendship. The characters in the story are marked and influenced by the importance of friendship. Friendship is highlighted among the characters as a reason for hope and an essential part of the thriving. The reader sees this theme emerge in Wilbur's life first with Fern and then with Charlotte. Fern saves Wilbur from being killed and they quickly become companions. Wilbur then follows Fern around and plays with her, giving his life joy and meaning. When he moves to the barn, he is bored and upset with the life until he makes a new friend. When he is when he is introduced to Charlotte, he feels hope again. Friendship is highlighted in this way as a reason for hope. So the symbols of the story. Charlotte's web symbolizes the power of language. Although spiders like Charlotte are not well liked and might be considered bloodthirsty, Charlotte shows wisdom and cunning in the way she tricks humans into reading her web. Not only does she draw the humans into her web, but she shapes what people think about Wilbur and what Wilbur thinks about himself. Crickets. The arrival of crickets symbolizes a change in season. The crickets literally arrive as the seasons change from summer to fall, and the change means harvest time for some of the character and going back to school for others. For Wilbur, the change of seasons means his potential death at Christmas time is drawing closer. Charlotte's egg sack. Charlotte's egg sack symbolizes hope for the future. Before Charlotte dies at the fair, she makes an egg sack that Wilbur takes home with him. Throughout the story, Charlotte provided hope and friendship for Wilbur and ultimately saved his life. However, Wilbur still experiences the pain of death when his closest friend dies. When he takes the egg sack home, he has hope for a new future, living up to all of the things that he learned from Charlotte that help him nature. So that's all. So that's the end of our presentation.